Hi everyone, and welcome to Human Design 101. I'm Paula Fehrmann, your host, qualified life trust coach and human design fanatic. I guide my clients to become their own experts by understanding and, more importantly, living their design. When I first came to human design, I was so overwhelmed by the triangles, squares, arrows, and numbers in the chart that I didn't touch it for more than a year. However, my human design experiment has been the most important transformation in my life, which is why I want to show you how you can use your design as a simple tool to heal, transform, integrate, grow, and ultimately become your own expert. No more looking for the experts outside of you. Keep listening and learning here on the podcast, reach out for private coaching, or book a chart reading with me. Let's talk Human Design 101. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Human Design 101. I know I say this basically at the start of every episode, but I am truly, really excited about this episode because today we have Patrick from Love is Blind sitting here with me, and we're about to have a conversation around human design, his journey, and his experience. Hi, Patrick. How are you doing?
Hello, Paula. I'm great, thank you.
Good to have you here. Would you introduce yourself to the listeners from a human design perspective? Let them know a little bit more about, well, first of all, your human design. And then I would also love to know from you how you came across human design. When did it enter your life? Give us the whole rundown.
Okay, thanks for having me on this podcast, first of all. I'm a 4-1 projector, so the opportunist investigator. I'm a splenic projector as well. Um, my conscious sun is gate 28, so it's all about, taking risks in life and playing the game of life. So, yeah, human design was something which was massively life-changing for me, even once I stumbled across it. So this was in 2021. It was in January. I remember because of COVID, I used to live in Dubai in the UAE, and the lockdown was very severe. It was very strict over there. So um, we were literally just in the apartment all the whole time, and so I had a lot of time in silence and solitude. And I just really started to go within, and um, I was away from the distractions of like friends and family and just life in general, even work. But yeah, I was scrolling Instagram one time, as you do, looking at the reels, and this lady, she started to talk about generators and manifesting generators and projectors, and I was just so captivated in that moment. I was like, what is this woman on about? So I Googled it, as you do, and I started to read all the energy types, and I thought I was a manifesting generator. I thought that profile really, or sorry, that energy type really fit me very well. And then I saw that you could actually get your own one in terms of putting your data into a chart calculator. And so I immediately like messaged my mum, what's my time of birth and all this information because I never did this before. And yeah, she got back to me very swiftly, and I punched it in and found out that I was a projector. And I was just like, this is crazy. Like, this is not me. I'm not waiting. I'm not sitting back waiting for life to happen to me. I'm someone who, will go out there and get it. And I realized that this was obviously my conditioning. This was obviously the way I've been, I guess, indoctrinated into the world. And society is very powerful in telling us what to do and how to do it and how to make decisions and so many other things. But yeah, finding out that I was a projector was life changing. And the more I read about myself and I guess my unique qualities and stuff, it made me very emotional. I actually began to cry and be like, this is crazy. Like for the first time in my life, I think I felt seen, and like this system, this tool just really gave me everything that I needed in that moment. And from then on, I just didn't look back. I just kept diving deeper and deeper and researching more and more. Like it was so much like self-taught, and then I started to reach out to other people. I started to go on Twitter, and I started to use there's another forum app, the orange one, that was just so amazing. And just finding out all these little nuances and details about human design was just life changing. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's so funny. You're like a projector and obviously I resonate, the listeners know because I'm also a projector, but we're like, oh, this tool made us seen for the first time. And we all love projectors, love being seen. So getting this experience from something on the outside of you is is obviously life changing. But I want to know, because you kind of shared, okay, so I had to message my mom and ask about my birth time, and this was kind of all new. At this point in time, were you already dipping your toes into spirituality, or was this something that just kind of popped up and you were super curious and open about it?
I would say, so from COVID, obviously I was in lockdown and I was in silence and solitude. I began to go within myself more. So I think that naturally I just basically awakened to the idea that I can actually live life for me and I don't have to play societal games or give my authority away. And I think that was a massive catalyst towards opening up my spirituality. And then it just so happens that the algorithm on Instagram was showing me so many different things. One of those different things was human design. And so it just aligned at that perfect moment. And, ever since I started reading about it again, like my life just changed massively. But yeah, I would say that human design was the gateway to my spirituality. When I look back at it as a nutshell, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, cool. And again, so many questions. Which one do I pick? So you kind of dove head into human design. You thought you were a manifesting generator because, we can be like, projectors can be a little bit like super generators when we're amplifying everybody's sacral energy, and we can go until we crash. And if we don't know, we go and we crash, and we go and we crash, and we go and we crash. And so you recognize, okay, I'm operating from conditioning, and I'm assuming you changed some things. And looking back from today, what has changed for you? And have you actually seen things improve to the better, for the better? And this is not, I'm not asking this to like look at like your experience. I'm asking this because I am genuinely always interested in hearing, how are people using these tools, and can we manage to mm, jump from all the enjoyment that we get from understanding ourselves through the system, and it's all mental and so deep, to generating change in our lives. Do you understand what I mean?
I do. Yeah, I would say this tool is very specific and it actually took me a while to understand my authority. It was something that I think I was always in my mind. Like I have both my head and my ajna defined actually, but I was always in my mind and always, trying to logic my way through life and listening to others on, what is success and how we are meant to live life and how we're meant to show up in life. And I think when you look at human design and especially strategy and authority, the idea of waiting for the invitation as a projector, waiting for recognition first and then being, invited. I think that was something that I struggled with massively at the beginning because I've been told, that this life is yours to go out there and I guess just evoke change and do things at your own will. It was when I started to experiment properly. I think this was more after you get the dopamine hit of just learning so much about yourself through the lens of human design. Then you start to embody it and you start to practice. And definitely waiting, I just began to let everything come to me, stop being that person to go out there and reach out to other people or even just push my ideals on other people. I used to do that a lot, especially with my family, always telling them, things that I'm learning and how it can improve their life uninvited. And that was something that I used to get bitterness from, especially if they weren't listening. And so just taking a step back and actually, being invited, that was something that was absolutely life changing actually because being a man, being a male as well, in this life, we are conditioned to go out there and hunt and do this and do that and, put our best foot forward for certain things, certain desires. I have innocence motivation. Um, and that was just just super life-changing for me. The fact that I could do life in a different way. And so, yeah, waiting for the invitation and then, trusting my intuition or my instincts, again, something super alien to me once I began to experiment with human design. It was always think about what you're doing, Patrick. Patrick, this decisions that you're making, you have to give yourself enough time so you can think about how it's going to play out, and you have to overanalyze every single thing so you can find out that it's going to be successful for you or not. Like taking risk was something that I guess I used to do it naturally, but I would say consciously, I was very risk adverse. I was not someone who wanted to take risk and always trying to do the thing that would get me the best outcome. And I think that put my life in a particular direction that I just do not align with right now. It's super interesting trusting your spleen or to trust your intuition, your instinct. It's definitely something for me that happens in the moment. Um, can I physically feel it? I actually don't, but I get like a hunch, like an instant knowing. When I know something is for me, I will go for it. Or if something is not for me, I will, say no and go against it.
Yeah, let's speak a little bit more about this because, like, to anyone who has watched Love is Blind, we know that I am trusting my spleen, or my spleen is telling me this, my spleen is telling me that has really become your tagline. If anyone is speaking about you, this is what they're referring to. And I thought it was quite interesting because getting the spleen is so nuanced, and I'm a splenic projector too. So for me, it has also really been a journey of like trying to figure out like what is this thing? Like, is this my spleen? Was that my spleen? There was a lot of like, was it that, or was it the mind? Or because I feel like to me the spleen is so subtle that oftentimes when I'm thinking about it, it's already too late. It's like you just need to be embodied and then you're doing it. But as you're becoming conscious, it's kind of muddling with it. So this question might be a little bit tricky for you to answer, but I'm going to go for it anyway. How do you trust your spleen? Like if we're looking at, let's take the situation, you are, in the pods and you're telling someone my spleen is telling me this is a no and I have to trust it. Is this something that you communicate? Is it a hunch that you felt and now you're communicating? Is this something that is happening in the moment? Can you run us through your process?
A very good question. It's a very difficult question. I get this a lot as well in readings as well from other splenic authorities, manifestors and projectors. And I always say it's something that you will just know. It's such a hard thing to put into a language for people to understand because, we all want answers, we all want to know each other's experience. I think me sharing my own experience is a way that someone can observe that and then maybe something will click, and that could be a splenic feeling or an intuition. Something will click once they observe or watch someone else in their own experiment. For example, in the pods, there's so much that you don't see as the viewers because we date 15 different so there's 15 guys, 15 girls, we all date each other. And then obviously for the show they just select the ones that I guess will, bring the most viewership or the most drama or this kind of a thing. But I was obviously trusting my spleen throughout the entire process, and it's funny because they make it seem like I talk about my spleen a lot, but it was just in the beginning of each day. I just say, I trust my spleen, I trust my spleen. But then obviously that can be edited to make me sound a certain type of way. But it was just interesting. For me, trusting my spleen is just I will go through whatever experience life chucks at me, and then once I get that instinct, the best way I can describe it, it's the way I describe it, it's a knowing. So once I get that knowing, it's like, okay, this is for me or this isn't for me. And that comes super quick. Sometimes it doesn't come as well. And if that doesn't come, to me, it's a no. It means I should just go and do what I was previously doing and not proceed. Um, I have betrayed myself in my life so many times with my spleen. So to me, at this stage of my life now, I understand what I should and shouldn't be doing. And even to this day, I still betray myself because, we're all human beings and it's an experience. But I definitely can listen to my spleen, let's say. So for me, it's a knowing. It's an inner knowing that comes in the moment. I've heard other people tell me that they physically feel in their body when something is a yes or a no. When it comes to the spleen, it's a sharp thing. Other clients have described to me, and so yeah. This is just my point of view, an inner knowing.
Mm. Thank you for taking the time to break that down. And it's funny that you mentioned the editing of the show because when I talk to the human design community I have in London, it's like, I want to interview you. Do you guys have questions that you want to hear? There was a lot of like backlash. And I was like, you guys all know that this has been edited and this has been, put together in a way. And I just want to provide a space in which I can create space to form opinions on what is reality and not what TV wants us to see. So I'm appreciating that you sharing a little bit more of the behind the scenes because I don't know. Um, yeah, we never know what we're being shown, and we all know that clickbait and media is a thing. So more now to you and being invited or not into Love is Blind. That was a big question. Everybody was like, ask him whether he was invited and tell us about like how you were invited if you were.
Yeah, so I never actually applied for the show. The show actually reached out to me in projector fashion. Um, I declined it twice as well, which is quite interesting. At the time I was seeing someone, so I was like, this is not for me. But then I became single, and the third time that they reached out, I accepted and I proceeded. But yeah, it was, I guess they DM you based upon, I don't know how they found me, maybe on a dating app, maybe through Instagram when I was creating reels and these kind of types of things. But they find you and they obviously give you a nice pitch about, what this could be and stuff like that. And then they think that you're going to be a good candidate. So that's what happened to me. And so, you know, obviously getting the recognition is amazing. You're like, wow, these people actually see something in me. Netflix want me on their show. Da, da, da. So that's a great feeling. And then, you know, I guess the projector side kicks in as well because it's an invitation. It's like, oh, this could be interesting. I'm so curious about life, and it fits so well with my conscious son, my gate 28, just playing the game of life. And I guess, purposelessness is a massive thing for me as well. Like, and I think, could I potentially marry someone that I've never met before is something so bizarre that it actually makes a lot of sense. It was just like, wow, put yourself in that environment. You never know who you could meet. She could be incredible. She could add something amazing to your life. She could know about human design. Like there was just so many possibilities that the mind obviously creates, but it was just huge curiosity, which is, gate 28 coded. And I also have gate 28 in my conscious Venus. So, to do with my femininity, to do with love. I was like, this is super interesting, why not go out there? You never know. I guess my whole life when it comes to love and relationships, I haven't been most successful. So trying new things is something that I'm absolutely open to. And yeah, I just thought this would be a great experience. And you just never know in life. So why not try?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I this might be uninvited, but just when I hear you say, my whole life I haven't been successful in relationships, I don't know. I always encourage people to view it as a journey and just take this like unsuccessful thing out of there because it's like everything is working out in the way that it's meant to. And personally, I choose not to anymore kind of look at past experience and let it guide me towards the future in like a very like uh I don't want to say fearful way, but if I think about my relationship life and if I would label as in, oh, it wasn't successful, it wouldn't give me a good feeling moving forward. So just mirroring that back to you. Anyway, I love that you were invited. This is so fun to hear. And I think that's so cool for projectors to hear because one of the big things I think that my clients struggle with is when they come to me and they're projectors is this, and I struggled with in the beginning too, is this like, there's no invitations. Like, where the hell, like, what am I meant to do? I'm just sitting here, nothing's happening. And oftentimes we do have to do a little bit of healing and aligning our beliefs in a way that feels like we can move forward. And I want to be careful. I don't want to get too woo in the language, but if I speak very practical and grounded, like there's a little bit of self-trust and self-worth that needs to be regained often, because we are so dependent on the recognition from the outside, and we might have stories around not receiving that recognition. And once that is done, it's really nice to hear from all sorts of projectors that invitations are coming. Speaking now about the backlash that you got from the show, how does that make you feel?
Great question. Before I answer that, I would love to go back just a little bit to I have gate 33 in my unconscious son. So I'm someone that is, wow, I love to spend time alone. I love to just reflect on every experience, like even to a fault. Like I'm someone who just loves to constantly overthink things and go over every single thing in detail. And it actually provides me a lot of joy to do that because like I see my life as a movie. Like instead of maybe watching a movie on Netflix, I would just watch my own life in the past things that I've done. So that's one of the reasons why I'm always, for example, when I say unsuccessful relationships, I look back at all my relationships and I just think, wow, okay, so this was unsuccessful because of this, and this, and it's something that I guess I'm just going to keep doing. And I'm in my mind, I have a defined head and ajna, so yeah, it's something that I really enjoy it. It's something as well which I could see the negative in it. But at the same time, this is, if I look at it from a positive lens, it is nice to look back on life and see how you've improved and, where you went wrong and stuff like this. But
Mm.
yeah, just
So you're more viewing it as an evaluation, and unsuccessful, as from what I'm hearing now, is not necessarily negative. It's more like, let's look at what can be done better. Is that what you mean?
right. Yeah. How can we step into the next experience knowing and applying what we have learned in our previous experiences? And that's something that I do a lot, actually. So yeah.
Mm. Mm.
But moving on to the backlash, this has been massive. This is something that actually was so unexpected. And but again, that's just my mind working, I definitely thought the general public would be a bit more, let's say, open-minded towards certain things, but at the same time, that was, I guess, me coming from my own experience of people and the people around me. It definitely can create like that, just an environment which is, I guess, there's a word I'm trying to look for, but like an echo chamber almost. Like this is not the real world. The real world is very critical of how people live their lives, and especially people are very set in their ways, and anything that challenges those things can be demonized and seen as negative. And I've received so much hate, which is incredible, but I've also received a lot of love, which is also incredible. And I just put it down towards, I'm here living my human experience. I have gate 39 as well, so I'm going to provoke people in certain ways, and it's going to trigger people in a good way and a bad way. But yeah, the backlash has been incredible. More so on the spleen. A lot of people, I've even had messages, people telling me that I'm trying to be special. Like I think I'm so special. Why don't I just call it a gut feeling? And that made me really think, like, that's interesting. Why didn't I just call it a gut feeling? Then I thought, okay, from the human design point of view, I'm splenic. So I don't have a defined sacral. I'm not here to trust my sacral energy. I'm here to trust my splenic energy. What's going to keep me healthy? What's going to keep me safe? And so, I can't enter a relationship with any person that's not going to make me feel healthy or, feel safe. And so, intuitively, I knew that on the show with the women I was dating and things like this, it didn't align, and that's okay. We move on. But yeah, the backlash has been very interesting. Something that I learned a lot about myself through that.
Yeah, I can imagine. Um, it's interesting that people are asking you, why did you not call it a gut feeling? Because when I was watching the show, and I have never watched Love is Blind before. The only reason I watched it was because there was someone human design related on there, you specifically. And so I was curious how you were going to um, translate this like super spiritual language into normal layman's terms, I want to call it. And you chose to not do it, and you chose to stick with the classic human design language, which I also thought was an interesting choice. Now, hearing from you that you were obviously thinking about the woman that you were talking to, or the women that you were talking to, and the future partnership or potential partnership or relationship or whatever makes a little more sense to me now. But yeah, I am someone who is, for me, I try ground spirituality into something that everyone can understand. Um, would you do that differently if you could do it again, or would you stick with your no, this is, this is human design, this is human design language, and this is how I'm gonna use it?
What's so interesting about that is on my dates, I did actually, at first I would say I trust my spleen just to get a reaction out of them. They'd be, oh, what's this spleen? Maybe some of them have heard about it. All of them hadn't heard about it, which was obviously like, that was going to happen. But then I would take it a step forward and be like, okay, this spleen, it just means that I'm intuitive and I trust my intuition. And like how someone says a gut feeling. So I would explain all of this in the dates, but obviously they don't want to show that because that's not
Hmm.
relevant. It's like, what's the drama? The spleen? Like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Spleen. So, yeah, obviously in the dates, we're dating here to marry, so I want the person to understand me fully. I went deep into those, well, into the explanation of what the spleen is and me trusting my intuition. But would I do it differently? That's a great question. I reflect back and I think no, because I have to 100% be myself. And on that show, I was 100% myself. And so this is how I would describe it. I wouldn't want to make it easier for some people. I also believe as well, me being a projector, I don't think it's my duty to explain certain things. I feel like if the person really is interested, they may seek an explanation on their own accord. There's AI, there's several videos. There's so many ways you could even ask me and things like this. Maybe if you invited me, then I would explain, and which a lot of the women did. They were like, "Oh, so what does this mean?" And so I was then able to explain. You know, it doesn't mean literally trusting my spleen. It's just my intuition. It's just the words that I guess everyone else can understand. But I had a woman in there called it black magic, which was really funny and really interesting. But there was so many moments where I thought, Patrick, are you actually going to find your wife on this show? And I guess ultimately no, but at the same time I wouldn't change anything. I would just go in there as myself and see what happens, and yeah, good things came of it.
Hmm. Mm. Thank you for sharing that. Um, when I was watching the show, I was thinking about it from a human design perspective, and I was kind of thinking about myself. I obviously as a splenic person, but I have got outer vision. So I was like, oh my God, that would not be for me. This, like, the way someone looks is so important for me, not in a superficial sense, but I need to see things in order to be able to take them in. And so that got me thinking, hmm, I wonder how sacrals respond to this show. I wonder whether it's good for an emotional person to have this like continued exposure to someone over like a certain amount of time. And I wanted to ask you whether you have any thoughts. Like, do you think Love is Blind works particularly well for, I don't know, generators, emotionals? Can you share a little bit of your thoughts?
I think the show is fascinating. Like you, I never actually watched the show until they actually cast me for it. I was never interested in these kind of things, but when I watched the show as just a viewer, I was like, this is super interesting. Like, people are actually getting married without seeing each other, and I just think in life there are so many ways to live your life. There's no one manual that says you should do it this way or be married in this way and that way. And so great curiosity to just go out there and see what would happen. And I think all energy types, generators, reflectors, manifestors, everyone can absolutely find something from this show. I believe everyone could potentially get married on this show for sure. It just it's something as well. You have to be in it to experience it. I was obviously amongst a lot of generator energy as well, which was very interesting, and I found myself getting super exhausted just through the dating process because you spend so much time filming. Like you have what 7, 8 hour days literally dating date after date after date, and it gets exhausting, seriously.
Yeah.
So you would go into the common room and I would just lay down on the sofa and just be like, and everyone else is just so giddy and oh, this date was good, this date, and it's just so interesting. And yeah, I would when I would go home or when we would leave and go back to the hotel and whatnot, that was when I would be alone, and that was the time for me to, I guess, decondition and process. Patrick, what the hell is going on right now? And I think that was a good time for me to just really, yeah, I guess just be by myself and be in my projector aura. But man, it's so influential when you're there as well. Like there's a lot of people there, like the men were just giving gifts and being very what's the word? Just so forthright with their love and saying I love you after a few dates. And I'm thinking, like, are these people being real or fake? Like, what on earth is going on here? Like, this is craziness. And so it's a very interesting environment. But I do believe in the show, in that love is blind. For me personally, love is not blind, for sure. For sure, for sure. Like, it's the projector eyes are very important. You mentioned that you're outer vision, so we need to see each other's eyes. We need to experience each other's energies and auras and things like this. As a projector, it's so important. Having that recognition, having that invitation is super important. I think Love is Blind, no one really recognized me on the show. Like I wasn't recognized as someone. And maybe that's because they didn't know about human design or whatnot. But a lot of people just thought this guy's crazy. He trusts his spleen. This is a red flag. We need to get away from him. And that's fair enough. But I had a great experience and I really enjoy it. And I would do it again as well if given the opportunity.
Cool. Well, I'm glad to hear. Um, this is so it's so interesting that you were speaking about how um whether you were reflecting on whether people are being fake or real, professing their love so quickly to someone. And I think this is a really interesting topic. I actually just reflected on that over the weekend because over the last years, through my own, call it like spiritual process, what I believe love is has really changed. And I think for what I would call maybe quote unquote normal people, um, there's a lot of shielding around the heart. We have a lot of walls and there's a lot of protection happening. And what I came to the conclusion that I think what they believe love is like this mini opening when the walls crack and someone managed to go through just a little. And that's, in my opinion, when people are more inclined to say, I love you, when they get in touch with something that's happening in here. When you're doing a lot of, or when you've focused on opening your heart and being open regardless of what's happening on the outside, regardless of whether you're getting into a shitstorm on social media or whether someone is validating you or not validating you or whatever it is that is, usually mm, bringing that closing off in. When you're working on that, I feel like the whole concept of love changes. And suddenly you don't just have love for this one person, or you don't have love for this person because they're making you feel a certain way or not. It's just a lot more broad. And so even this is just an interesting thing to think about, bringing people together, talking about whether love, quote unquote, is blind or not, when we all have such different ideas of what it is. Like, yeah, what even is love? Um, yeah, so thank you for bringing that up. And feel free to comment on it. And after that, I would love to hear from you. you already mentioned, okay, bunch of generators. Did you feel any other non-sacral beings hanging out in there with you, meaning projectors, manifestors, or reflectors? Or did you even look up someone's chart?
Yeah, I definitely did. Yeah, I definitely there was someone in particular who I thought would be a non-sacral being, and she actually turned out to be a projector as well, which is very interesting. I did a few chart readings for some of the ladies and one of the guys. So yeah, I know their energy types, and some of them were surprising. But yeah, it was interesting. There's two projectors there that I had a hunch were projectors, just because of the way they would be and act, and they were, yeah. But then the rest were generators, the ones that. So there was four girls that I've got their data. Two of them projectors, two of them are manifesting generators, and then the one guy, he is also a projector as well, which is very interesting. So yeah, but I feel like conditioning is just so strong. So a lot of people obviously don't know that they may have limited energy, and they just keep going, just as I did, for 29 years of my life before human design and stuff. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Can you give us some names for now? I'm curious with like who was the projector? Who were the generators?
Actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to keep it for myself, just because.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay. Bummer. People are going to be like, tell us. We want to know. We need the perfect.
maybe if once I get their permission, then I would say for sure.
Yeah, no big deal. I respect that. Okay. So I want to know, just more like generic human design questions, or I feel like I'm doing them a disservice by calling them that. But um, how do you live your human design day to day?
Day to day, I am a projector. I love to rest. I love to just chill. It was something that, well, before I used to always think I needed to earn my rest, and rest was not an option for me. There's so many things that I want to do. Love going to the gym, love taking care of my body, and just moving and traveling and doing so many different things. And I think from 2022, I would say that's definitely changed. Literally a 180. I spend a lot of my time horizontal. I do a lot of work with human design and with clients, and I guess just helping people and contributing to a community that I have on X or Twitter. And yeah, I spend a lot. Human design for me day to day is literally just chilling as a projector, putting myself out there and doing what lights me up, whether that's with social media. A lot of it is social media, and then yeah, just waiting for invitations and seeing what comes to me. But I definitely spend a lot of my time resting more than I ever did in my life, and sometimes I feel like and this could be because I have a wide open heart center, so yeah, there's a lot of having to prove myself, especially to, I would say, my dad. Like, he was the person that I really gave my authority away to, just constantly in my life. And so yeah, sometimes I feel like maybe I'm not doing as much as I can from that lens, from the societal lens. But at the same time, once I'm laying down and I'm just thinking, actually, I'm a projector, and I feel good. And if I feel successful as I am now, then what does the rest matter? And that is still something that I'm actually combating as I even speak to you right now. But I'm happy, I'm successful, and I feel good. So maybe that's enough.
Hmm. Yeah, it's that's a big projector thing that I love to talk about and have talked about loads on the podcast, is what does success actually mean? Because it's so um purposefully unspecific, because we all have to make up our own meaning and we all have to decide what is successful for us. And I think only when we've got that, and well, first of all, that might change. Like, it changes all the time. For me, it changes depending on what season I'm in. I've just moved cities, and there was a lot of socializing and being invited to different places and spending time with different people. And that in that moment felt very successful and very aligned for me. And after coming out of this big socializing bunch summary experience, now all I want to do is focus on work and getting back together with my clients, going back into studios teaching and facilitating. And once I've done that for a while, I'm assuming that there will be a new wave of desire, of need coming in, and success changes depending on where I'm at. And so I understand that, mm, yeah, it's just constantly evolving for us, but we need to be in a place where we feel successful, because this is what makes us magnetic. And only when we feel, mm, how do I say it without saying magnetic? Only when we feel trusting and secure in ourselves, only then our energy is of use to others, is what I feel like. Because otherwise, it doesn't really land. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Um, okay, last question. What do you love most about your design?
Great question. I love that I have an open or undefined G center. I think that I think just knowing that I don't have a particular direction in life, even though I'm a 4-1, um, that fills me with so much joy because just life is just so unknown. And my favorite gate in human design actually is gate 61, which is about mystery. And this life is so mysterious. My mind goes off into some incredible directions when I really just think about it. Like, for example, language, like we can only understand each other through language or in detail through language. And like, depending on the language you speak will depend on your experience in life. And if you speak multiple languages, you're going to be able to have multiple experiences. And actually, maybe we can actually communicate with each other, not through language, but through energy or feeling. Things like this just really, gate 61 is just a really, really interesting gate. Um, but I would say 28, which is my conscious sun, just knowing that life, I have to make my own meaning in life, and that life is a game for me. That has given me a lot of, I would say, freedom, and especially mental freedom, because I can tell you now, my life was not like this before. I was so stuck in survival mode, so material, so constantly trying to be busy and trying to, I guess, meet other people's expectations of me. And yeah, just human design really changed that. Gate 28, especially massive.
Mm.
So yeah.
It's so interesting that you're saying that your favorite thing about your human design is not having a defined G center, because someone asked me on the weekend if I could choose any center definition that I don't have. It would be, for me, it would be the G center. I love being with a defined G center. This feels like it's so incredibly good for me to have that sense of direction. And I have a G center envy. I mean, I don't, I joke around it. But that's definitely something that I'm integrating, and constantly coming back to this, like, okay, well, sometimes there's this incredible openness and sometimes there's this like movement into one way or the other. So yeah, it's good for me to hear that openness is something that can be enjoyed, and it doesn't need to be feared.
For sure. Do you mind if I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I would just love to know your experience with your incarnation cross, your left angle cross of limitation. This is something super interesting, and I have a few clients who also have this cross. So I just want to like know your experience with your limitation.
It's a great question. And you need to connect me with your clients, because I have never met anyone with the same crosses as I have.
Wow.
There's an incarnation cross book by Brynja Magnuson in which she breaks them all down. And the only person I think I knew who was on the same cross was Emma Watson, but I don't really know anything about her. So there wasn't a lot that I could connect to. But yeah, so my experience with this cross is, especially with the through the focus of the projector lens, is that people always pop into my life when have something that they are working through. It's like a perceived limitation, and I'm, especially with my need motivation, I'm able to kind of cut right through the BS and figure out, well, this is what we need to focus on, this is what needs to happen. And so with that, I tend to be in people's lives with a sense of like intensity, and for shorter periods, especially if I think about clients and help them kind of push through limitation in the way that I have pushed through limitation. And this is now where it gets a little bit um, personal. Obviously, in order to find your way through limitation, there needs to be limitation. Like there's no joke. So oftentimes I'm finding myself in situations where I'm like, whoa, this is not what I expected. Especially right now. Like this year was crazy to me. Like I could have not predicted by the beginning of the year where I was going to be now. I thought I was going to live my life in London as I'm used to. Now I'm living in a totally different country. And so there's a lot of kind of external boundaries that I encounter in which I am challenged to find my way. And then with Gate 56, the storytelling part is really important too. So I then get to communicate about it and share my experience and let people know, well, this is what I learned. And this is then with Gate 32, this is what is worth holding on to. This is what is worth persevering with. And this is what can go. And yeah, it is really, if I had to describe it in a few words, it feels really gritty. Like it's there's a lot of substance behind it, a lot of depth, and a punchiness to it. Like I feel like nothing can really get me down. Like even throughout a day when I'm experiencing something, I feel limited in one way, shape, or form. I sit with it for a little bit, I feel it for a little bit, and then I'm like, okay, how can we turn this around? What can we do about this? How is this actually serving me? What is this showing me? What can I learn from this contrast? And sometimes that comes really easy, and I come out of it being like, whoa, I'm actually really grateful that happened. And sometimes I come out of it and like, I still feel a little bit wobbly, but I trust that like moving forward step by step, the wobbles will become less and the strength will become more. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you. Because being a fifth line, like a lot of people are going to look to you to, I guess, save them, you know? And with your limitation, I just think that's something that just goes so well hand in hand. Like there's going to be so many hurdles that you're going to have to overcome. But then, wow, when you share that, it's incredible. It's incredible what that can do for other people as well as what it's done for yourself.
Mm. Did you see any or hear any like similarities to what your clients have shared when I was just sharing about my cross?
Actually, um, no, you've opened something more because this client as well in particular I'm talking about, they're also a 5-1 just like you. So it's just super interesting. And she wouldn't mind me talking about her, but she's a trauma nurse. So she has to deal with so much negativity, like day after day, taking things home. But she's a manifesting generator. So from your lens as a projector, it's definitely different. For her, it's going to be more about because as a trauma nurse, you can't really say no to certain patients, or you have to keep saying yes and yes and yes. It's going to be more about when you leave, or can you leave your professional work, and then when you are yourself, can you just do the things that I guess wipes that clean? Can you be yourself, take time to rest or get your own aura back? I think that's more for the manifesting generator or generator. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would imagine there the limitation. It's like it's almost like okay, how can I feel good within these incredibly limiting surroundings? Because trauma, like being a trauma nurse, I imagine that being intense. So yeah, it's interesting to look at, okay, how can I deal with what is? This might be a little bit shitty. It's good also, but this might be a little bit shitty, but how can I make the best out of where I'm at. Yeah,
Mm.
it's an interesting thought.
I think that's
Um,
key what you say, sorry, just making the best out of everything. That is so important. Sorry.
mhm.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes I feel a little bit like am I annoying people with this attitude? But it's just so me. And if I'm not doing this, I feel terrible myself. So this is something that I need to or want to stick with because it's like, well, if we're not doing that, life doesn't feel worth living for me. Um, yeah. Anyway, I really enjoyed having this conversation. Thank you so much for sharing a little glimpse of your world. If people want to find you, if they want to connect with you, if they want to work with you, where can they do that?
They can literally follow me on Twitter, X, or Instagram. It's Projector Patrick. Actually, X is Projector Pat, but then Instagram will be Projector Patrick. So yeah,
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Patrick. And until next time, bye bye.
for sure. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today and listening along to Human Design 101 with me, your host, Paula Fairman. I trust that you received exactly what you needed from today's episode, and I love how the universe matched us today. If you enjoy listening and learning with me, please leave a review wherever you are listening to this podcast so that more people can unlock their true selves and ultimately become who they were meant to be using human design. Until next time, lots of love and bye-bye.